Welcome to the Contact Center Cactus Chat podcast. I'm your host, Eric Malvin, and this is the show where we talk about customer experience. We talk about outsourcing, managing contact centers and call center staff. Today, we're doing something a little different. We are focusing on the customer experience, but from a slightly different perspective. So I'd like to welcome our very first guest ever today, Mark Svejda. Thank you very much for joining. And I had the pleasure of meeting Mark many years ago when you were only a business attorney. And although that's one of the hats you still wear, you have another hat that you're wearing starting about 2 years ago, where you made this you added on from the courtroom. You didn't make the switch, but you added in from courtrooms to tasting rooms now. So today you're known as the chocolate savant, travel the world sourcing the best chocolates, and you get to help create these amazing tasting experiences where you get to try these amazing chocolates. So welcome to the show, and thank you very much for joining.
Okay, Eric, thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, awesome. So since this show is about the customer experience, I do have a couple questions around that. So since, for the people listening, we talk about outsourcing, but customer experience is a big part of that. And customer experience is everywhere. It doesn't matter if you're on the phones, if you're in person meeting with somebody, if you're using a service. So explain to our listeners, what is a chocolate tasting experience?
Well, a chocolate tasting experience can be a whole lot of different things. For me, a chocolate experience, tasting experience could be going to a chocolate shop and trying out new chocolates there. It could be trying out a new recipe in a cookbook that I enjoy. It could be putting together 6 different types of fine chocolates that come from different parts of the world and having people sample them. So there's just a wide variety of chocolate experiences.
Yeah. And what do you do to help design that experience? Like how important is that for that experience for the person that's trying the chocolates? Because I'm sure a lot of thought goes into that, right? You're not just like, oh, I went to Fry's on the way home, here's some chocolate bars.
Well, in terms of a chocolate experience or any type of experience in business or in personal life, I always go by the saying, you want to give people a great experience and give them a reason to come back. So you want to create a memory. So when I want to put together, say, a chocolate tasting experience together, then I'm going to go ahead and put together probably 6 fine chocolates, raising anywhere from 70% cacao or 70% chocolate content to 100%. They're going to come from different parts of the world. So when people try that chocolate, they will get to enjoy the different flavor profiles. Most people don't realize that depending on where the cacao beans are grown, the chocolate that comes out of those cacao beans is going to have a different flavor. So one of the things when I do my chocolate tasting experiences, I want people to have that experience, savor those different flavors, learn something new. And then also in the context of doing the chocolate tasting experience, I also like to do a little bit of an extra. So maybe I'll do a chocolate and cheese pairing, something that people haven't had before. Or I may make a specific type of brownie and bring that out as a surprise at the end so people get to sample that. So that just goes along with this whole idea of give people a great experience and give them a reason to come back.
Oh, I love that. And that translates actually really well, more than I even imagined, to the contact center space, because, yeah, I mean, we're trying to provide these experiences that are extra. They need to be not ordinary. If they're normal, everyday conversation, doesn't really stand out. But if you leave that call or that interaction or the chocolate tasting and you're like, wow, that was different, like that was something I haven't experienced before, yeah, that's what we're aiming for too. So I think a lot of people that are listening, they're also deep into the business world and their careers, and you found a way to make this like you mentioned it to me earlier, a side hustle around and turn it into a little business here as well. So how did you come to figure out to expand and make this your side hustle? Because other people, they might drive for Uber, they might start selling some software, they might start something. So why chocolate?
Well, first of all, I've always had a passion for baking. So that started as a little kid, 6, 7 years old, with my mom in the kitchen. So I've always enjoyed baking. And then I've always enjoyed eating chocolate, but typically it was always been milk chocolate. So I didn't really sort of get into this until about 5 or 6 years ago at a chocolate shop in San Francisco called Dandelion Chocolate. And Dandelion is a bean to bar chocolate maker, meaning that they purchase the beans, They do everything in terms of roasting the beans, cracking them open, having cacao nibs, converting that into chocolate. And they would typically have about 15 different types of chocolate set out in a row. You could sample everything. So one day I started going down the row, sampling everything. And it's like, man, I can't believe all these different flavor profiles in this chocolate. So I sort of got very, very interested in what was going on in terms of the flavor profiles. And I have the opportunity to travel a lot in the world. Always have enjoyed going to bakeries. I have a little bit of a sweet tooth. So it just sort of came together in terms of traveling, finding different chocolate experiences out throughout the world. And I thought, I'm traveling more, getting close to retirement. I don't necessarily want to practice law all my life. What can I do that I have a passion for, that I can still potentially make some income from, that people will enjoy? And that's sort of how it got created. I mean, the thing is that when I sort of made a modification to my LinkedIn profile, a little side story here. I mean, who wants to connect on LinkedIn with a lawyer? I mean, lawyers are a dime a dozen. But a lawyer who has a passion for chocolate, then that was totally different. So when I added chocolate in to my LinkedIn profile, then my first connections on LinkedIn just exploded.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So for whatever it's worth, maybe somebody wants to use that in terms of their business to help grow their business also.
Yeah. Well, I think part of it too is really, this is also who you are. You've had this passion for chocolate. And so you're sharing more of who you really are with the world instead of just the lawyer side of things. And I think people are really attracted to that too.
Well, the other part of that is also, I want people to tell me about their chocolate experiences, because if someone went to a great restaurant and had a great chocolate dessert, or they had this fantastic hot chocolate at this little restaurant in Paris, and I want to know about that, because if they had a great chocolate experience and I have the opportunity to go there, then I want to try it out.
Yeah.
So I want people to share with me just like I want to share with them.
All right. So for you guys listening, you're at the end of the show, we're going to talk about how to connect with him. So share your favorite chocolate places from around the world. So I may or may not have brought you on as a guest to try some free chocolate from you. So I know you brought some chocolates for us to try. So tell me, what's the first bar that you brought here? Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, so I did bring a bar. It's the chocolate maker is Stone Grinds. They're located in Scottsdale, Arizona. They're a bean-to-bar chocolate maker, meaning that they source the beans and they make the chocolate themselves. They're not a chocolatier. A chocolatier is different than a chocolate maker. The chocolatier basically has someone else provide them with the chocolate, and then they make bonbons and other types of chocolate confections from that chocolate. But this Stone Grinds bar, this is my favorite one. It's a Banya. It's from Madagascar. It's a 70% cacao, dark chocolate. And I particularly like cacao that comes from Madagascar. Mm-hmm. And the reason I like it is because it's very light, it's very fruity, and it's very citrusy. And for me, I say that this particular bar from Stone Grinds, that the chocolate sings because it's so bright. So this is the first one that I brought, and this is also an award-winning chocolate. Stone Grinds, they've been in business for 10 years, and I think they've won 25 awards for their chocolate. So they definitely know what they're doing. So you want to sample that? Or
yeah, let's try it out. Well,
super.
We can keep talking while we're trying some chocolate here too.
I don't know about that, but let's really try it. So you can share the flavor profile with the listeners. It's a little bit cold because I did have it, since it's going to be 110 today. I made sure that it was cold.
And I can't describe chocolate the way you do. It's so fun hearing you talk about chocolate like people talk about wine or beer. And
we can talk about that in another podcast.
Next episode. No, this is good. It almost I don't know how to describe it. I don't know how to describe different chocolates. Kind of reminds me of like the chocolate that you have raisins in.
Well, for example, if you have a chocolate that may come from Honduras, for example, that cacao there will typically have a much fudgier and darker, richer flavor than this particular chocolate. Like I said, this is more citrusy, lighter. So that's the way I would describe this one.
Yeah, it's delicious. Well, so you get to travel the world, doing tastings, trying out some of the finest chocolates all over. What are some of the recent travels have, where have you gone recently?
Well, in July, I was in Edinburgh, Scotland, and we specifically went for the Edinburgh Jazz and Blues Festival. But while we were there, we went to a chocolate shop called the Chocolateria, and we did a chocolate and whiskey tasting experience. And I really, really enjoyed that. And what was interesting is I would taste the whiskey. We did 4 whiskey samples. 2 of them I didn't care for. So what was interesting is the ones I didn't care for, one was aged in rum casks, and I didn't like the flavor of it. They paired that with a coconut infused chocolate, and actually then the chocolate and the rum went really well together. So I like that. There was another one that was the peated whiskey from Islay, which is an island in Scotland, and that had I didn't really care for it. It was a little bit smoky. I didn't like the whiskey so much, but they paired that with with a coffee infused chocolate. And actually it turned out I liked the pairing. So I didn't necessarily like the whiskey, but when they put the chocolate and the whiskey together, it turned out really well. So that was one of the most recent chocolate experience. So I really enjoyed that. And there's a second one I want to share with you, because this is, if someone has the opportunity to do this, I'd recommend that they do it. There's a Belgian chocolate maker in Brussels called Neuhaus, Neuhaus. And they're the inventor of the praline, I think in 1846, something like that.
Oh, wow.
But they have an outlet store. And when you say outlet stores to Americans, that's like, oh, this is a great deal. I'm going to get great deals on chocolate. And they do have great deals on chocolate there. But the best part of the store is they'll typically have about 20 to 25 different types of chocolate that are in 2-pound boxes. So it's more bulk chocolate, and they're slightly imperfect. Looking at it, you wouldn't know that the chocolate was imperfect. So all these different pralines. So you can go in the store, you can eat as much chocolate as you want. You can't take it with you, but you can literally go in and eat chocolate all day.
Like a buffet of chocolate.
I mean, in terms of the chocolate experience, that is unbelievable. So if anybody has the opportunity to go to Brussels, take advantage of the Neuhaus outlet store in Brussels. There's also 2 other outlet stores in Brussels, one for Godiva, and then there's another chocolatier called Leonidas, and they have an outlet store there also. I've been to the Godiva outlet store. I've not been to the one from Leonidas yet, but I intended to go there. So I'm hopeful to make that a regular part of my yearly travels, going to the Neuhaus outlet store, because it is really a super memorable experience.
All right, I wanted to try another chocolate. I know you brought one more, so let's try this other box you got sitting here.
This chocolate's a little bit different. It's called an inclusion, and that's just a chocolate bar that has something added into it. So this particular chocolate, the chocolate maker is Ritual Chocolate. They're based in Park City, Utah. And if you like raspberries, you will like this chocolate. And many times this chocolate's sold out because it's called basically après ski. So Park City being the ski area, they did a little play on that. And this particular chocolate has also with sparkling white wine, and it's paired with dried raspberries. So it's also a 70% cacao, meaning that of the composition of the chocolate bar, 70% of it is cacao. And let me just make one little point. Cacao means before it's processed into a chocolate bar. So if you're talking about beans, it's a cacao bean. And this is just a percentage of chocolate that's going to be in the bar. But this particular chocolate has a really nice flavor profile. And I have had it with champagne before, and it's a really nice tasting chocolate.
Nice.
So let's get this one out of the bar. This is a little bit of a flavor explosion. So if I can get it out of the package, but it hasn't melted too much.
Yeah, is that ever a challenge living in Arizona and having chocolate? Oh, look at this.
You come prepared if you have the freezer packs. Your chocolate will be fine.
I don't know if that shows up. It's probably blurry. There. That's good. Really good.
Chocolate and raspberries are always a good combination.
So what's your favorite combination?
Oh, that's difficult. I guess I'm still looking for it.
Okay.
That's probably the greatest, that's probably the best response to that, because I guess you can say I'm looking for the ultimate chocolate experience. I always look for things that I say are chocolate taste explosion. So there's a drink, and it's made by Dandelion Chocolate Company in San Francisco, and it's called frozen hot chocolate.
Okay.
So it's a summer drink, and that's a super ultimate chocolate taste explosion. So people can check that out if they want to. But the reason I'm interested in chocolate experiences is there's always another one on the horizon, and maybe there's always something that's going to be better.
That's true.
So that's the great thing about being the chocolate savant.
You're on the quest to find the best chocolate explosion. Awesome. So a couple more questions I had for you here, and then we're about out of time. As a business owner, you're always looking to you're always having to innovate, to grow, try new things. So what are you working these days around? What are you working on around chocolate tasting these days?
Well, I'm working on perfecting a chocolate and whiskey tasting experience, and that's picking whiskeys with different flavor profiles and matching them with different types of chocolate, and to see what works best together. That's number one. Number two, I'm working on creating and building a chocolate community. I have started a Facebook group called My Chocolate Experience, and this is just in the infancy stages. But the concept is that I would like to have monthly meetings, both in person and online, down here at Mac 6, where you can do that here in Tempe, Arizona. And try to have maybe 30 people appear in person and 30 to 35 people appear online. And everybody would have a chance to, if they bake something, they can bring it. If they want to, they can try it out. But everybody will have 1 minute to stand up and present their most recent chocolate experience. So I'm just interested in growing a chocolate community so I can find out about more chocolate experiences.
Yeah, that's awesome. So we got people listening today. They're concerned about the customer experience, and like I said earlier, it might be a person on the phone. It could be someone coming into the business. What advice would you have to someone that's trying to create an amazing experience for their customers, their brand, whether it's chocolate tasting or selling a product or service?
I think try to find out best you can, what does the customer want? And then try to satisfy that customer want. And that's basically then just talking to people. What do you like? What do you not like? What am I doing right? What am I not doing right? And just try to give them the best experience that you possibly can. And what can you do to differentiate yourself from the competition? I think that's really perhaps the most difficult thing to do in business, especially if you're in a business that everybody's doing it. How do you differentiate yourself? It's like the pizza business. There's pizza is around every corner. What makes one pizza company successful and the other one not successful? Why does one have a line out the door and the other one doesn't? It's got to be the customer experience. So find out what your customers want and give them a reason to come back.
And that is great advice. Thank you for sharing, because I know working with businesses, that's one thing that's across the board. Businesses are guilty of that. They get so focused on the business and they forget to talk to the customers and see what exactly they really need. And that's so true. So thanks for reminding our listeners about that. And thank you for sharing these amazing chocolates with me. I really appreciate you being our first guest today too. So thanks for joining. And if people want to learn more about you or the chocolate tasting, they want to connect with you, maybe tell you about an experience somewhere in the world that you need to go try, how can they connect with you?
Okay, it's pretty easy. It's Mark, M-A-R-K, at chocolatesavant.com. That's my email address, mark@chocolatesavant.com. I'm very active on LinkedIn. So if you go on LinkedIn and just type in Chocolate Savant in the search bar, I will come up so you can connect with me. I'm on Facebook, so I'm pretty easy to find. So, and I really welcome people reaching out to me and sharing their chocolate experiences with me. And I'm looking forward to sharing more of my future experiences with your listeners.
Awesome. Well, hey, thank you very much for joining the Contact Center Cactus Chat podcast. And until next time, we'll catch you guys on the next episode. Thanks.
Thank you.